From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy.
The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, dollars versus access. Folks want Corey to clarify his realignment thoughts from the other day. How much will these late-stage coaching changes affect the boom-bust cycle of college football success? And it seems like it's time. Why FSU and Leonard Hamilton need to air their plan for the future immediately. Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Shake it, take it, sip the juice. Vitamin Energy is the world's first and only clinically proven energy shot. Get a sample of it yourself, everybody. Go to vitaminenergy.com. Different varieties, different flavors. There's a variety pack that lets you sample pretty much everything they offer. Apparently, Corey, they're working on maybe some new flavors and some new packaging. And once that's finalized, guess who's getting some of it?
Guy out in Oregon, right?
Well, you and I.
Oh, perfect.
And whoever's out in Oregon that ordered the Vitamin Energy, and I sent him a complimentary package, because the BOGO right now is we're making moves behind the scenes, Vitamin Energy, but then the BOGO code shall be resuming at some point in the immediate, well, not immediate future, but in the not too distant future, we would hope. But hey, it's still there for you all the time. The website, vitaminenergy.com. Shake it, take it. Warchant.com, ultimate Seminole sports source. 5-star review, please. Thumbs ups, ratings, reviews, subscriptions, all that, or just some of it. Just pick whatever you want to do. We'll probably be happy with either of it, but the subscriptions, usually the best thing to do. Give that as a present to somebody for Valentine's Day, maybe. Hey, why not? Why not? Cheer them up. I'm cheered up because Corey Clark's here, everybody. What's up, Corey Clark?
What's up, buddy? How are you doing? You doing all right?
The weekend was a house project, and per usual, they never go as easy as it shows on YouTube. Just never. Always something happens. I painted the front door, and I refused to take it off its hinges because who wants to do that, Corey? I was able to paint it just fine, but then I replaced the bottom seal of the door. So there's like your floor, the threshold, and then your door, and then at the bottom of the door is a seal to go between the door and the threshold. And it's just like you pop the old one off, and then you pop the new one on, and everything's good. But there's these channels on the bottom of the door. I popped it on. It wasn't. I didn't have it perfectly centered, so I had to take it off and put it on again. But then something broke on it. Then I had to pretty much like rip off half of it because it was hitting the threshold and the door wouldn't close fully. So, I'm Home Depot and Lowe's. Them just lobbying to do all these things. It's easy. Oh, it takes 30 minutes. No, they're wrong. They're lying. But how are you, man? How was your weekend? Better? I hope.
Better than that. Yeah, I didn't have any home projects, so that's nice. Had another bird in my house.
What?
But I figured it out. There was a window downstairs that was left somewhat cracked that I didn't realize. Thought it was locked. Also thought there was a screen on that window, so it wouldn't matter. But there isn't. And so, Sunday morning, I found one alive this time.
Nice.
Flying around downstairs, it's a cool feature of the house, actually. So me and Brady had to usher it out. It took 10 minutes. He had the bright idea to shut all the doors. Like, don't let him fly into another room. Let him shut all the doors, and he's got nowhere else to go. So eventually we got him out.
So your window was open when it was snowing?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't, I was down in Tallahassee for that. But, it was not open but cracked, like 3 inches.
Well, still, man. I hope you're not leaving your AC running when you're out of town. But you probably are, aren't you?
Yeah, man. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You only live once, guys. You only live once.
This guy. All right. Well, hey, before we move on to whatever the news of the day is, a little bit of a slower Monday probably for you folks, but we'll be picking things up towards the end of the week because we'll be generating discussion, courtesy of our great friends over at Cummins, making his triumphant return, back for another season. Monthly swag bags, and yes, grand prize will still be coming back. I don't know if they're going to be as... We'll see how the stock price does this year, but I wouldn't hold my breath for getting both the portable generator and the portable power station, but you'll get your choice of one of them. Just get onto the warchant.com travel council. There'll be a thread pinned to the top of it, or maybe it won't be pinned. We don't pin stuff as much on the boards anymore, but look for the generating discussion Renegade Express thread on Tribal Council. Put your question in there. Best one gets featured. Video breakout. You're the star of the show. Really fun times. And tomorrow, Corey, we get another round of newcomer interviews. This one not as new. Marquise and Douglas. We'll get Biscuit.
Okay, yeah.
Micah Pettis, your projected starting left tackle, right tackle. Randy Pittman, tight end, and Deuce Robinson.
Okay, so all the transfers. I guess most of these guys are transfers, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's.
Are we getting it? We got to be getting some freshmen later on in the.
I think next week.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like next week. I think this week will be the. Yes, I think this will be the last of the transfers.
Old Biscuit's back.
That's right.
Good for him, yeah.
Old Biscuit. Hey, so over on the Tribal Council, lots of good discussion. Obviously, the existential crisis of conference realignment was really stoked. The flame of it, rather, when the news of the re-up, the extension, whatever you want to call it. Our guy Nole Daddy, Corey, which he tagged me twice. So at some point, he's like, Aslan, can you weigh on this, please? But I think he really wants you to weigh in on it, Corey. I try to translate for you, but I'll just let you say it in your own words. But he was basically says, it just maddens me that someone as smart as Corey thinks we can compete with Florida being $20 million a year behind Florida. So I was basically saying, I just think, we are tasked with, we're not doing any PR or anything here, everybody, but I just don't, I understand this is like an existential crisis for the university, the football program. If you don't find yourself in a better conference, getting better payouts, you worry about what your brand is going to look like, whether kids are going to want to come play for you. People don't seem to buy our silver lining, Corey, that if you're in this conference and you get just a few $1 million more than you had been getting, you're still in a pretty good spot to be able to get into the playoff because they think no recruit's going to want to come here because it's just going to be all about the power too. So I don't know where you want to pick that discussion up. If you feel you need to clarify anything, Corey, about I guess our relatively non-panicked approach when we caught news of this stuff late last week.
I mean, I guess my argument or my counter to that is I'm going to go ahead and assume that Florida's revenue, the University of Florida's revenue in 2023 was probably substantially more than Florida State's.
I think I looked it up. It was like maybe I think $9 million more is what the SEC schools got this past cycle, but I'll double check that while you continue.
And then 2022 as well, right?
Yes.
And Florida State handled Florida both those times. It was able to compete. It was able to compete in 2021. Look, I'm not sitting here saying this is ideal. I worked in the newspapers for a long time, and all we heard was work smarter, not harder, as they made cut after cut after cut. And finally, they don't even care anymore. They're just they aren't competition for online news sites anymore, and it's not close. So I'm not sitting here saying that it's ideal, but let's not pretend that like teams that spend the most money are guaranteed to be awesome. It's easier for them. But that doesn't guarantee wins all the time. Or how would the Tampa Bay Rays, I know it's a different sport, how would they ever win games?
Rep it.
How would they? They spend a third. The Moneyball was made, I know it was 20 years ago, but the Oakland A's and the Tampa Bay Rays have had decent to pretty good runs over the last 10 or 15 years at times, and they spend a fifth of the money of their counterparts. You spend smarter. You have to. You're going to be at a deficit. Now, is it ideal? No. Would you want to have the same money? Sure, absolutely. You want to have more money than Florida, but it's not impossible. I saw Jacksonville State beat Florida State. They can't compete. I saw that with my own eyes. I'm guessing Florida State had more revenue that year than Jacksonville State. Meaning, again, I know we can call that an anomaly. We can call that just that's a very, very small sample size. But Florida State will not be so far behind. If they can get to within, we're thinking they're going to be 40 million behind. If they can cut that in half, again, I think Florida's going to be spending not all that money on football. They're going to be building a 50,000 seat baseball stadium, I'm sure, and get all the best players and come after Link. All our nightmares will come true with all that money. But, I think that Florida State can be competitive. It would be crazy because I think Florida State has always been working with less money. For years, they've had less money than the other big-time programs. For years. Now, not 40 million less, but they've always been at a disadvantage financially because they got started so late. And they don't have maybe the booster club of a Ohio State or a Florida or even Clemson with IPTE. but they managed to compete. It's not ideal. It's not impossible. And again, I know the answer to this for people that are listening to this is yes, you are competing with Florida. You're competing with Clemson and Miami. You are trying to get into the playoff. Mm-hmm. If you get in the playoff, things can happen. Florida is not in your conference. You don't have to beat Florida. You could take that week off. It doesn't impact you at all if you're trying to get into the playoff. The only way you can get in is to win the ACC. Florida doesn't impact you at all. You want to beat them. I get it. You want to hammer them into the ground. It is not ideal. But if you can get close to them, you hope your better coaching and your better evaluators, your better development can offset the fact that they overspent for an OC or they overspent for a head coach or for a right tackle. Just spend the money better. Smarter, not harder, Aslan.
Yeah, these dollars are not fungible. They're not equal. You know, your $1 does not necessarily have to get you the same return on investment that the Florida dollar gets, to your point. Right. Of course, it just has to be spent a little bit better. We don't have the numbers yet on this past season, but in the 2022-23 cycle, which is the most recent data that's out there, average Big Ten school the average payout per Big Ten school, rather, was $60 million. SEC was $51 million, and ACC was just shy of $45 million.
The ACC was shy of $45 million?
Yeah, they were 44.8. SEC was 51.3.
So when you think about, so that was 22. So 23, yeah, you're right. It was probably closer to 8 or 10 million. And it was probably 20 million less than the Big Ten. And do we think there's any team in the Big Ten that Florida State couldn't have competed with? No. In 23. Now, again, the landscape is shifting. And more people have figured out NIL. More people are throwing a lot of money into that. I'm just telling you, I get it. I'm not saying that over the long term it's sustainable to be a national power when other schools are making $25 million a year more than you. Over the course of a decade, that's $250 million they have more than you. Good luck. I am saying if the scenario stays the same where you can get into the playoff by just winning the ACC or, frankly, just being in the ACC championship game, it's probably easier, even with $20 million less than Florida, to get to the playoff than to get to get that $20 extra million and have to go play Tennessee, Texas, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Georgia, and Florida in a season.
Yep.
Good luck.
Yep.
So, if you're smart right now, how about I phrase it like this? Because it's a fair question. And I probably misspoke if I said they could compete with Florida annually, routinely, consistently, if they're making $200 million less per decade. Maybe I didn't mean that sentiment. But right now, Florida State needs to worry about competing with the ACC. They just went 1-8 or 1-7 in the conference. They won one effing game. So let's see what it looks like to compete with the big boys, quote unquote, of the ACC and get to Charlotte again. And then let's tackle the next step. Because right now, they're not spending their money well. Clearly, last year was a joke. Those expenses are embarrassing. So they need to start spending their money better. And then, hopefully in 3 years, this nightmare's all over. And we're in the Big Ten or the SEC, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's such a tricky thing to really talk about because it's going to be a react. It's everything is reactionary because no matter what people try to make you click on or highlight in the title of their stories or whatever, like no one truly knows where this thing is going to end. So it's constantly moving. Is it going to get settled in the courts? Is there going to be a settlement outside the courts? Who's going to get nabbed by whom? So it's just so hard to wrap your head around how this is going to end, even though whatever happens, if Florida State gets picked up by the SEC, it's like, of course it makes sense. Why wouldn't you want to have this great brand in your conference? If they end up not being able to get out of here before 2030, it's like, well, they signed this contract that it's ironclad. What did you expect? Duh. So I just don't know what side we're on, depending on the day that you're listening to us.
Well, right. It's I think more than anything, my take, it's not a hot one, is compete with the ACC. Like, you make as much money as every other school in the conference.
Well, pushback is that, so Florida State's going to be so far behind in spending. They're going to be so far behind in prestige when it comes to the SEC and the Big Ten that even if they do win the ACC, and the ACC is still part of whatever college football playoff formula bracket that they have, you're just going to roll out your quote-unquote 3 stars and you're going to get rolled in the opening game. What's the point? That was pushback on the board.
I guess, but Arizona State didn't get rolled, and they played an NFL team. Like, it's college football, man. There's parity everywhere. If you get in there, you get a chance. Clemson didn't get rolled. I guess both of those are Texas. Boise State's in the game if the guy doesn't throw the pick in the end zone against Penn State. So, again, I think I get that. I understand that. But it's like, man, let's cross that bridge. Let's worry about not being competitive in the playoffs when we get to the playoffs. Like right now, the concern is getting back there, becoming an upper tier, upper echelon ACC team again, and then let's worry about how it looks when you get to the playoff. Yeah, it's hard to go from 2-10 to worrying about winning 4 straight playoff games. Let's just get near. Let's sniff the playoff and then see what it looks like after that happens.
Looks like this House settlement's not going to be applied as easily and as smoothly as maybe some of us had hoped. Apparently, the players had no hope of this thing really going through. The House settlement sets aside a huge sum of money to players that didn't get paid during the pre-NIL era and then sets up revenue sharing. But people are now saying that, that's limiting. So the idea is going to be revenue sharing from the TV contracts, whatever other revenue the school generates from these sports, and most of it's going to go to football, maybe some of the men's basketball, women's basketball, and everybody else is going to get kind of the scraps. But apparently this would violate antitrust laws because you're limiting the amount of money these players can make, and that's their constitutional right or something. I don't know. I'm not a scholar. But I don't know. I am less bothered by Thomas Castellanos' exit from Chestnut Hill than I am him not necessarily being the flag bearer, the torch bearer in this new fight between players and institutions, but like he's got counsel that have filed suit, and a bunch of players have. Livy Dunn is part of it as well, which is she still in college?
I know. Who knows?
It's incredible. But yeah, so Castellanos has got some skin in this game too to kind of push back on the House settlement, which we hope was going to bring some sense of normalcy back to the sport and some kind of soft salary cap, if you will, and then maybe things just go back to bagmen under tables and shady corners of whatever parking lot to get the player over the finish line from schools. Your thoughts on, I know, Castellanos throwing his name in the ring on this, Corey? Is it a good sign that you've got a headstrong guy who's interested in the greater good of his teammates and the guys that are going to come after him in the college sports game, or is it maybe some deferred attention when there's other things maybe at hand that would be better served for him to focus on?
Well, first off, I'd like to correct you. It's Tommy.
Tommy, you're right.
It's even on the website. It's on the Seminoles.com. It's on the roster.
Is it? Okay. I'm sorry, Tommy. My bad.
It's been updated to Tommy. Yeah. And yeah, man, I don't know. I literally I don't know what his role is in the lawsuit. I didn't read up on it. I saw his name was mentioned. I saw that we had a story on it on the website, but I couldn't really wrap my mind around what his role in it is.
The whatever they filed is just like boilerplate. There's nothing like a quote from Castellanos or anything, but it's his counsel. So who knows? For all I know, these guys.
Yeah, but what's their complaint?
I
don't think it was just necessarily pay us as much as we want. It was something specific, but I don't know what it was.
Apparently, I'll just read this verbatim from the guy who tweeted out, who apparently works in sports media or like sports law, Sam Ehrlich, I think, either. Thomas Castellanos' lawyers representing him argue that ambiguous language in, I guess, the House settlement may improperly release related entities like the college football playoff from liability, and that the Title IX letter makes a settlement worthless. So I think I did read the screenshots the guy provided, but it was like a roller coaster of just words.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's maybe that, there's going to obviously be revenue generated from the college football playoff, and then that might be protected from getting shared with the players. And I think it's like, no, you're not going to do that, because that's, that month is the biggest generator of revenue for all these entities like ESPN and Fox and everybody. So.
But you said the word liable, right?
That's what he says. The language in the settlement may improperly release related entities like the CFP from liability.
Well, I would. So liability, like financial I thought it'd be more like if you got injured, they would say, "Screw it, you're on your own." That's what I didn't understand the liability aspect.
No, because it says in the what they filed, that part of it reads, it is a completely separate entity from the NCAA and the conference defendants, and is a multi-billion-dollar entity that signed a $7.8 billion contract. This substantial boost in college football playoff revenue is expected to cause revenues at $2.2 billion to surpass the NCAA's current annual revenue generation of approximately $1.2 billion. So I think the fact they keep throwing around these huge numbers and the amount of money that's there in the college football playoff, they're trying to protect the college football playoff from that money not going to the players. The players are like, no, we want this piece of the pie too.
Yeah, but it's like who gets them? The players that make it?
Yeah.
That'd be cool with that. But the school gets some. So that would be part of the school. I would think the school would take care of its own players if they make it. Either way, I mean, I don't know if, does Michael Penix get some Super Bowl winnings? Just because, you know what I mean? I don't know how any of that works. I mean, it's all part of the NFL, I guess, and it's collectively bargained. It's all collectively bargained. We'll see what happens with the college football world and collective bargaining. It feels like, again, that's where it's got to go down at some point. You got to go down that road, make them employees. Then you can set these caps.
No.
You can't, but then you can't set these caps at least.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Well, that's what I think is the only way it won't ever get out of a court. The only way it'll ever get out of a courtroom ever is if it's collectively bargained. Otherwise, it's always going to be in a courtroom for the rest of our lives.
Hopefully the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill will be standing there for the rest of our lives, offering tasty food, ice-cold beverages, and fun games and diversions for everybody, the whole family. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway, cptallybar.com, the website. Are you going to watch the Super Bowl there, Corey? Or do you do Super Bowl party, host, go to somebody's house?
I don't know yet. I assume I'll be there. I'll be in town, so that makes sense. But, yeah, I don't know. Nobody's invited me to a Super Bowl party, so we'll see, I guess.
Get your squares, everybody, and invite Corey to your party. In the meantime, check out Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, daily lunch specials, happy hours, obviously trivia night on Tuesday at 7 o'clock, bingo night on Thursday, 4 rounds, $250. According to the website studyfinds.org, being a bingo night regular could buy your brain an extra 5 years. Older adults who maintain active social lives develop dementia approximately 5 years later than those social peers, 5 years later than their less social peers. So be social. Go out, hang out with people. When you're in Tallahassee, do it at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. We're back. Wake Up Warchant, Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Shake it, take it. Go check it out. All right, some other news and notes from across the college football world. Corey, Ohio State, congrats on your national championship. Now, all your coaches, get out of there. Their offensive line coach, Justin Fry, who masterfully reconfigured that offensive line after they lost their starting left tackle in the regular season loss to Oregon, and their center about a month later, is headed off to the NFL to become the offensive line coach for the Arizona Cardinals, Justin Fry. Charles Kelly is going to go be the offensive coordinator for the Las Vegas Raiders. Some of you may know him as Chip Kelly.
Oh, I was going to say, not that Charles Kelly. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So those guys are gone. That's cool. Alabama apparently is trying to get the band back together. Not sure if they're going to get the offensive line coach back, but Ryan Grubb, who was a longtime assistant for Kalen DeBoer at Sioux Falls, at Fresno, they were together. At Washington, they were together. He actually agreed to go to Tuscaloosa with DeBoer, but then he got offered the Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator job and took that. And I don't think he did that bad, actually. I meant to look up the stats that they put up this past year, but they let him go after 1 year in Seattle. So the plan is, and it's been announced, Alabama's going to bring him back as the offensive coordinator. But I think the offensive line coach made a good impression and might be sticking around in the NFL. So that makes you mildly concerned, but they still don't have a quarterback, even though Jalen Milroe apparently didn't look all that great at the Senior Bowl. And then Tyler Santucci, who apparently Mario Cristobal made a run at. He is the previous former defensive coordinator at Georgia Tech because he just took the linebackers coach job for the Baltimore Ravens, Corey Clark.
Yeah. He was good. I was impressed with him. He was an impressive he did wonders for that Georgia Tech defense, honestly. So that's a big loss for old Brent Key.
Yeah. So I don't know. We think about these boom bust cycles now that are going to happen in college football, Corey, just because I think obviously so much of it because of transfer portal and NIL. How much of it's going to be coaching changes? Do you I don't know. I mean, we think about, Michigan winning the national title 2 years ago. Their head coach leaves. Their defensive coordinator leaves.
Yeah.
They promote from within this past year. Ohio State obviously wins it. They've lost their OC. They've lost their DC earlier or actually last month, now that we're in February, and they lost their offensive line coach. Is that going to possibly be part of kind of the boom-bust cycle of the college football, you think, now?
Apparently. I mean, that's the trend, right? But I don't know if it's just a one-year blip or if this is normalcy now. In Penn State, who was very, very close to making the national championship game, lost their DC to Clemson. So, it's. I think that's just kind of. It's hard for me to say. It's hard for me to ever not notice a trend, but predict. Nothing about this school. Nothing about this sport right now is predictable. So I have no idea. It's certainly eye-opening that so many coordinators from really big programs are leaving. So, I don't know. I'm sure Ohio State will find someone that's pretty good.
I've got a conspiracy. You interested in hearing it, Corey?
Sure, buddy.
Sam Pittman got hired at Arkansas the same year as Mike Norvell, 2020. He is 30-31 at Arkansas. Probably fair to say that he's on the hot seat this year. He's gone 7-6, 4-8, and 7-6 in the last 3 years after going 9-4.
So basically every Arkansas coach ever.
Yep. Except for Brett Bielema. Or no, wait, Petrino. Petrino was the one that actually did all right
won
there.
some things, yeah.
Yeah, he got into a New Year's Six bowl.
Ken Hatfield back in the day. For my old listeners,
Frank
Hatfield guy.
Frank Broyles.
Yeah, Frank Broyles. Heard of him?
Lou Holtz.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all I got for former Arkansas coaches. Chad Morris, who got
Houston Nutt.
Oh, my man!
Yeah,
Yes!
they all went 7-5. They all went 7-5 for their lives.
Good problem to have. Florida State tears it up this year, and maybe by tears it up, but everything's relatively speaking here. But I wonder if Gus would take that job.
Arkansas.
Yeah, I totally believe in when he's like, I'm over being a head coach. Way too much stuff outside the scope of actually coaching ball, and I just want to be a ball coach. But I feel like that singular job, that might be the one that they could get. And I don't know how much interest there is in Arkansas for him, but I imagine there's some level of high-level booster there that has an affinity for Gus because he's an Arkansas guy and they saw what he did. And listen, man, he did really good at Arkansas the 1 year he was there. There was 2 seasons he was there, but Houston Nutt felt so insecure that he kind of chased him off.
When he was there as the OC, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, he was there as OC, right. Yeah.
And so they chased him off when he was there. So that's my one conspiracy there. When all these coaching changes, and this is the other side of it, not so much teams that end up winning national titles, but Florida State has a really successful season. I think Tony White, after 1 year, probably is another head coaching candidate, most likely. He interviewed for UCLA a few years ago. That was before he turned around Nebraska completely. If he turns around Florida State, this makes it that much more marketable. But I don't know how many natural connections there are out in his world, his network. But I can see Florida State doing really well offensively. And if Arkansas struggles, Gus is one of the names that they come knocking on the door of.
Wouldn't that be a fun bridge to cross? that Florida State's offensive coordinator is so good that an SEC school wants to hire him away.
Yeah.
Let's see if that can become a reality.
LSU hired Alex Atkins, so anything's possible.
Well, that's true because he was kind of there for the taking.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see.
Different.
Let's see. And would it surprise you? The SEC is so incestuous. They all hire each other anyway. Yeah. So why wouldn't he go back to Arkansas? Well, he coached the whole SEC West before he's through.
Thoughts on DJ Lundy applying for a waiver? Now, we don't know. Shout out to our Matt Lasser for, getting wind of this and then adding the caveat to it, which is that's true, by the way. Not necessarily a guarantee that he would use it to come back to Florida State, but if he were to get a waiver, how much, I don't want to say juice, but what sort of push do you think you would want them to put on keeping DJ around? I
mean, look, man, if the money is already spent, not a lot. I think there's a lot of overlap between him and Herring, and him and Stephon Thompson, the two linebackers they already paid. Let's keep it real, folks. This is college football, 2025. So then, why would you pay kind of a clone that's the same type of player or ish, not a game changer, decent player, decent college football player. You already got that at linebacker. So I don't know that look, if he's willing to come back and take a normal, you're not going to get into a bidding war for DJ Lundy. I guess I'd put it that way, to be kind. He's been a fine player. Could use him on offense. Short yardage, baby. But on defense, it's like I don't think that's a huge need that you would he might look for other opportunities. I don't know that Florida State's like out of money, but I would hope that they're not going to break the bank to make sure DJ Lundy stays.
Micahi Danzy. I should have pivoted to him after talking about Gus. Hopefully,
I like that you're waiting till the very, very end for basketball. Since I wrote a column saying they need to fire the head coach. I like that you're waiting to bring that up at the very end. Smart. Well played.
I thought you already did a video on it.
I did, yeah. Well, yeah, but we don't have – not everybody's on YouTube, buddy.
Lastly, Micahi Danzy, fast human being. Now, this is what is being reported, but I went on nolefan.org. I can't confirm it, but who am I?
Well, Florida State tweeted it out, like the Florida State track and field account tweeted it out. Yeah, tweeted that out.
It's on them then. It's on them. Apparently the fifth fastest ever 400-meter.
Yeah.
46.34, but he finished second.
Yeah.
He didn't win. So somebody's really, really fast out there. But 6'1", 185, moving like that. I still think about that wheel route every night against Clemson, I guess. He's somebody people keep talking about Sam Singleton, dude. Like, you guys talk about all the running backs, you never talk about Sam Singleton, to which I think we mentioned that he was like an All-American or something, right? Wasn't he?
He was. He's like a freshman All-American.
Freshman
for
All-American.
that one kick return.
Yeah, so shout out to him. But Micahi Danzy, that's a weapon in the garage that wasn't utilized. I don't want to say properly, because who knows how much of it he was comfortable with and what they wanted him to do. And
I know that I saw him make plays in practice, and he never got a chance to in a game while they kept running the same nonsense to people that didn't make plays. But yeah, who knows? Sorry.
Is he the next great dual sport athlete, or do we not consider?
Well, I almost gave Ira some grief on that headline because he said two sports star Danzy, and I'm like, buddy, that's using star real loosely. My man's not a star in anything right now. He could be, but I would hesitate to call Micahi Danzy a two sport star. He's not a star in either one of the sports right now. He's not Dion. But yeah, man. So obviously, most people know Florida State has had some really, really talented sprinters over the years. And I guess the 400 is considered a sprint. It is. That's the farthest one, but it's a sprint.
It's a half mile, right?
No, it's a quarter mile.
Quarter mile?
It's just one time around the lap. It's one time around the track. Yeah. But you're running full speed around a track. It's incredible. So for him to have the fifth fastest time with all the dudes that have rolled through here, like the Borleys and
Walter McCoy,
others, yeah,
Ricardo Chambers,
all of them, name them. For him to have the fifth fastest time as a freshman now, who also hadn't run track in I don't know 7 months, to go out in his first event run the fifth fastest time in FSU history. Maybe it's indoor 400 because maybe that's a different record than outdoor 400. But either way, that it's still 400 meters, and that's really, really impressive. It's so impressive that you wonder, and I'm certainly not advocating for this because I think he has a football future. I think he's really good. But if he goes and doesn't get a lot of playing time this year, does he like Marvin Bracey it? Now, he's not the phenom on the track that Marvin Bracey was. But the fifth fastest time, just kind of out of nowhere, just this is your second sport? What if he devoted his whole time to it? But he could do both. Look, Jalen Ramsey, I think, was an All-American in the long jump. And he turned out doing okay, sticking with football. So, he can do both. I'm sure he will do both. But that's I'm telling you, man, it is a different fast. It is just and the cool thing about it is it translates with pads on. We see it in practice. You guys saw it in a couple of rare instances when he was in the game. That is just a unique speed. So hopefully our man Gus, before he goes to Arkansas, can figure out a way to utilize Dancy for a year.
According to Nolefan, outdoor, he would, I think 46.3 would have been outside like the top 10. Okay. But indoor would have been fourth, sandwiched between the great Kevin Ainsley back in 93 at ACC indoors and Ricardo Chambers at Nationals in 2005.
How about that, man? I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
30 years later, he's again. It's not like he's been working with the track team for 6 months. He just got there a month ago. I don't know enough about like the development of track stars, but I feel like if you're running that fast and you have the 5th fastest time at a school like Florida State in history, you might have a chance to maybe win a national championship one day. And I guess he doesn't run the 100 or the 2, but usually the guys you either run the 2 and the 4 or the 1 and the 2. So maybe he'll end up being a 200 sprinter too. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see 100 meters. I want to see that quick start. You know what I mean?
Or 60. I'd like to see 60.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly right, yeah.
Last thing before we get to Ham. I don't know if Florida State's the innovators in this one, but Matt Rule, Nebraska, probably not going to do a spring football game.
Yeah.
Why would I use this as an open audition for my guys to end up leaving me and betraying me? Kind of cool that he got a little bit of pushback. Michael McCann, who's one of these sports law people, saying that these coaches want these protections that their pro compatriots get, but they don't want to give the players the collective bargaining. And it's like, hey, here we go, back and forth. But let's not go down that road again. But I don't know, man. At least make it like the Pro Bowl. You got to do something at the end of the spring for your fans. You don't have to necessarily play a game. I don't know how many people are going to drive from Tampa or Orlando to come to Florida State for a Garnet and Gold showcase if they're not, actually in pads playing stuff. But imagine if they had 2 teams and like Tommy and Brock have 2 teams and they're doing like elementary school field day things. But cooler than that. There's got to be something that you can do to kind of give your fans, wet their beak a little bit, show some appreciation, I guess. And, we all need a little bit of a preseason, just a tailgate as well.
Yeah, I mean, you could play a football game. That's what people have done for 100 years, but not anymore. Can't do that kind of stuff anymore. He said that wasn't a direct quote, was it, that you said? I saw the story where he said that his players were getting scouted because it was aired nationally, and so it's just giving other teams. And he's like, it's not even tampering. He goes, I don't use the word tampering. It's just a free open market.
Yes. He says, so you go out and bring in a bunch of new players and showcase them for all the other schools to watch? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I mean, okay. All right. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if that takes off. Maybe, yeah, you're right. Maybe Florida State was the innovator here, and they'll never do another one again. Which it'd be. I mean, look, the fact that we get to watch practice makes that more palatable. That there's no spring game, but if we didn't get to watch practice, and the last time we saw this team, saw a Florida State game was Florida, and then the next time we see them is Alabama, where we actually get to see football, that would be really hard. So that, and Nebraska's fans are so good. They're so good, and they're so deserving of something, anything, that I hope.
And they've been at volleyball. They've been winning some volleyball national titles.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And I say that condescendingly. They just took all their coaching staff. Florida State just took Nebraska's coaching staff and some of the really good players. But I mean it. Like, Nebraska's fans are great. It does pain me truly that they're not one of the elites anymore, but maybe Matt Rule can get him back there. I don't think he's going to get him back there because he did not televise. He didn't have a spring game in 2025. I think it'll be other reasons. All
right, Mad Dog, are you gnawing at the bars of your enclosure, ready to unleash your great mind and elaborate on your great column that you wrote as soon as the game pretty much went final on Saturday? Just an absolute gut punch of a loss for Florida State. They did not have any field goals in the last 2.5 minutes of a game that they were pretty much in control the entire time until, it was like 10 seconds left, and Boston College rallies back to win 77-76. Some say maybe Florida State should have drawn a foul on their last drive to the hoop to maybe end up getting this game to at least overtime at worst.
Well, yeah, but, whatever.
They didn't get that. So I don't know if when you're watching that game, you're like, man, good for Florida State, I guess, but this is a 1-8 in conference Boston College team, I think, and
they're awful.
They're terrible, and you're like, well, this is at least they're not that bad. Yeah. And then they end up just letting this game kind of slip, and then they end up losing it. And I don't know if it was the manner in which they lost, Corey, or just the fact that we're now in the month of February, and you have really no clarification on where either this university stands on Leonard Hamilton or where Leonard Hamilton stands on being a head coach here at Florida State. So The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. The gist of the column, you folks should have read it. I don't know why. I don't know what you're doing here if you're not reading my columns, because I'm much more articulate with the written word, Aslan, and I'm not articulate there either. But I feel like I'm more articulate with the written word. But the gist of it was, we know this is the end. Like, it has to be. You don't miss the tournament for a fourth straight year. You don't lose. You're in the midst of a 4-game losing streak. We don't know when it's going to end. You're 76 years old, and most importantly, really by far the most important, you don't have any years left on your contract.
Yep.
This is it. So we know his contract is up after this year. What are the odds they renew it or give him a new one, extend him for a year or two? No. How would that be met? No. Probably not with a lot of love from Florida State fans. And why would they do that? So the real reason, the real point of the column was, let's finish this up the right way. Florida State needs to get ahead of it. Florida State, working in conjunction with Leonard Hamilton, need to come out, in my opinion, just my opinion, it's one bald guy's opinion, and announce that this is his last year. I hope they do not do the Larinaga where he just bounces and says, y'all deal with this. Like, he needs to I feel like he needs to coach it out till the end, but this is my last year. Announce it, get ahead of it, start the search now, have it out there. We all know it is anyway, right? We at least, for a while, we've assumed it was. This 4-game losing streak, like, there was a hope there that, man, if they get hot, if they win a few games here, they have a chance to get on the bubble, and if they get to the tournament, maybe he does get himself a next year. Well, that dream is gone. When you lose to Virginia Tech and Boston College back-to-back, you're done. If you have a 4-game losing streak at all in this conference, you're not making the tournament. So with that in mind, we all see the writing on the wall. It's been spray painted 20 feet high. This is going to be his last season. Let's not have his career end with a press release in the middle of March. Let's have a time to celebrate the guy. 23 years, Aslan. A quarter of a century, my man. He's been here. I would have no problem if they named the court after him. I think he's deserved it. I certainly wouldn't have a problem if his name was in the rafters, like Hugh Durham's. I think Hugh Durham's name is up there. Maybe it isn't. It should be. He also played here. But still, Leonard's name should be up in the rafters. They could rename the court or just name it. I don't think it's named anything right now. And that would be a great tribute fitting for a guy that has handled his 2.5 decades here with the utmost class and grace and character that you could hope for. He's 76 years old, and there's no years left on his contract. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Enough with the silence. Let your fan base know that you are on it. Basketball is somewhat important. You're not going to just have a coach dangling in the wind. You're going to address it. You're going to get out in front of it, well, at least as much out in front of as much as you can at this point in February, and give the guy his chance to say goodbye the right way. And I hope if they do that, I hope that March 8th game against SMU is really, really well attended. I hope some former players or most of his former players can come back. I just think it would be a really neat moment. And I don't think Leonard wants a Krzyzewski, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar like retirement tour season. It would be cool if he got his chance to say goodbye, and people got a chance to say goodbye to him in the regular season finale, and not just we have to ask questions. Hey man, is this your last game? You getting ready to coach your last game? I don't know. We'll talk about that. It's like, man, let's end this the right way. So that was the gist of the column. I did not advocate for him to be fired. He doesn't have to be fired. Just the contract isn't renewed.
Somebody replied to your tweet about, I hope this ends gracefully. Heck, I hope it ends with a celebration of his career and with his name on the court and the rafters. That's what he deserves. Somebody replied with, definitely not his name on the court. Don't be ridiculous. Most people, I think, were a little more diplomatic. Somebody said, in 23 years, he's slightly over 500 in ACC plays, won 2 ACC tournaments, has 1 Elite 8 appearance, 4 Sweet 16s. Other than the 23 years, why should his name be on the court and in the rafters? Not trying to be rude about it. Seems like an A+ human being, but a C+ basketball coach.
I mean, I think the problem with these types of things, we talked about it actually on our Seminole Headlines Renegade Express excluve.
Renegade Room.
The Renegade Room, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Now, Renegade Express, that's us.
Yeah.
That you can't compare. Yes, right. Yeah, I get it. Well, number one, it's 9 tournaments because the 2020 season doesn't count. So he got to 8. I get it. He really got to 9. He was going to that's 9. It's still not great. 9 out of 23. I get it. He's also not coaching baseball or football at Florida State. And when he took over Florida State in the early 2000s, remember what that was like? And also remember what the ACC was like? Are you kidding? And he had this thing humming along. It was one of the 3 or 4 best programs in the ACC. He turned, for a half decade, twice, he had runs where he turned Florida State into one of the 3 or 4 best programs in the entire ACC. And I think that should be celebrated because it ain't easy. Well, we're all about to find out. Well, it's different now because NIL. Let Elon coach the team. You'll have the best team on earth. He could just sit there in the stands. But Leonard did it by, out recruiting the big boys for a Scotty Barnes or a Patrick Williams or name someone, Trent Forrest. He got big-time guys. He also got guys like Cabangeli and Vassell who weren't big-time recruits. They became first-round picks. I get it. It's not one Elite Eight, only 2 ACC titles. Because remember when Florida State was ripping off all those ACC tournament championships before Leonard got here? It's hard to win an ACC championship. He won 2 of them. Could have won another one. The Scotty Barnes year, they should have won that one. They blew it against Georgia Tech in the championship game. But, look, no, he's not Bobby Bowden. He's not Mike Martin. But he's been a damn fine basketball coach for a long time, and he's done it with class, and he's done it at a place that is not a basketball school, and it's hard to win here. And I think that should be celebrated. Fine, don't name the court after him. Leave it nameless. There needs to be something to honor the man in everything he accomplished because, again, I think he accomplished a pretty good amount. And I also think there's a chance, we'll never know, there could be a Final Four and there's odds on a decent to good chance there's a Final Four banner hanging for the 2020 season if that gets to go. And I want to point this out real quick, and then we're done with it. Because, yeah, sure, I don't know why it would bother anyone if Leonard Hamilton's name is on the court. Mark Few's never won a national championship either. He's obviously accomplished a lot more than Leonard, but so that was facetious. But, what was I going to say?
What about Bobby Crimmins? Did Bobby Crimmins win a national title?
Of course not. He got to 1 Final Four. Yeah, it's named after him. He didn't. And also, I would say this. I think Leonard is 4th all-time in the ACC in wins. I mean, come on now. At Florida State. This is just conference wins. I know you can say he's been here a long time. A lot of people have coached in the ACC a long time. He's 4th. He's either 4th or 5th all time in ACC wins.
Crimmins is 16 games below 500 in conference play, and one of the things that somebody brought up was that he's maybe only 500 in conference play or something like that.
And they named the court after him, right?
He's slightly over 500 in conference play, Leonard, and Crimmins is 1600, and they named the court after him. I'm sorry, continue, Corey.
Yeah, but I was going to say, the 2021 season when they got to the Sweet 16, it's like that was the final vestiges of what Leonard had built because it's not a coincidence. Remember, man, from 27, Jonathan Isaac, Dwayne Bacon, Malik Beasley, Jonathan Isaac, then you roll into like the Terrence Mann, P.J. Savoy, Trent Forrest, M.J. Walker, Patrick Williams, Vassell, Raekwon Gray, all these guys to Scotty Barnes. And then what happened where it really went off a cliff? COVID, sure. NIL in the portal.
Yep.
It crushed Florida State basketball. Why do you think that is? All of a sudden Leonard can't coach? Or maybe they could. He wasn't even close to a level playing field with all the people he was recruiting against. And he's not going to get a top 10 player anymore. There's no Scotty Barnes coming to Florida State. They can't afford him. So that more than anything kind of punted this program into the sun. I do want people to realize he did have this thing humming right along. They were consistently probably the 4th best. I think you'd throw Virginia ahead of them because they won a national title and they were very good for a long time too. They were the 4th best program in a conference full of basketball programs, basketball schools. They were the 4th best program for more than half a decade. And it looked like it was going to keep humming right along. And then NIL came and they got crushed. And look, man, he's also 76, and he hadn't been great. And it's sad that it's going out this way. It's sad that it's going out this way. I really, really cringe when people say something like he's mediocre, because if he was barely above 500 at Kentucky, yeah, that's mediocre. That's Billy Gillispie. Man, Florida State ain't Kentucky. It's hard to be above 500 consistently in the ACC when you're at Florida State. It just is. And he did it. And he's done it with class and dignity, respect from all the coaches in the conference. And I hope he gets a chance, the Florida State fans get a chance to show him how much he, just what he did for the program, I think. And it's the end of an era. Literally 23 years, man. That's crazy. Where were you, and what does that mean? So he was hired in...
I was here. I was a student.
At 2002 when he was it 2002?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So you were a Florida State undergrad? Were you a sophomore?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Diego Romero, Alexander Johnson,
Von Wafer.
Yeah, I remember Von Wafer on the bus with me one time. I think we had Tim Pickett.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Al Thornton.
Yeah, some greats. Tony Douglas.
That was after my time.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm talking about your time. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. By the way, these are the 5 most winning coaches in ACC history.
And you're talking about, this is conference wins, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Mike Krzyzewski.
You heard of him?
Isn't the court named after him?
Yeah. Yes.
Wait.
Weirdly, somehow they named the court after him. Sure, yeah.
Dean Smith.
Yeah, they named the whole arena after him. Yeah.
Roy Williams.
Maybe they might have put his name on the court. They're missing him right now. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. Gary Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what the court in Maryland's named?
I assume Gary Williams.
It's Gary Williams Court, and then Leonard Hamilton. So
yeah, that's great. How far away is he from Gary Williams?
I don't have the updated numbers on it, but Gary Williams had 210.
Oh, okay. I think Leonard's at 196.
Yeah.
So he's probably not going to catch him. But still, there's no way. Well, I guess if he won the last 9 games, he would probably come back next year. And then he would have a chance to catch him. So, yeah, and obviously we get it. Those 4 all won national championships. Leonard never got to a Final Four, although, again, his best team had a real shot. But I also would say that it's easier to win at North Carolina and Duke in Maryland than it is at Florida State, and respect the job he did, that he made them relevant. He made them good for long stretches of time, and it's sad that it's come to this where his team gave up 15 points in the final 47 seconds and lost by 1. That is unbelievable. So, yeah, but anyway, to answer the question, and I know we're done, but the reason I wrote that is because it wasn't just that it was the 4th straight loss. It's who you lost to, and it's how you lost to it. That was the ultimate, you just throw your hands in the air moment, like, what is going on? What are we doing here? And for me, it wasn't, what are we doing here? Fire this guy. It was, what are we doing here? It's clear this season isn't going well either. There's no hope that this team is going to turn it around and make some magical run. I don't think. So let's get an off ramp. Let's find ourselves an off ramp. Let's do it as delicately as possible. And look, at the end of the day, if Leonard puts his head not his head in the sand, but if he digs his heels in and is like, no, I'm not announcing anything. And I don't want you to announce anything either. It's like, all right, man, well, then there will be a press release on March 12th or March 15th or whatever. But you're not coming back as head coach. There could be some really uncomfortable conversations. I just hope it doesn't get to that. I hope both sides kind of compromise and figure out a way to make this as amicable as possible.
Emerging sophomore sensation Jeremiah Smith tweeted on Sunday evening, "No," with 5 O's and a broken heart emoji to the news that Chip Kelly left.
Come and get some, Jeremiah.
Would it be a bigger reverberation if Jeremiah Smith were plucked away by a blue blood program like Florida State, as much as my Lakers getting Luka Doncic on Saturday night, big dog?
So I was hanging out with friends, and we were talking about something, and we had ESPN on the background, and the big red bar at the bottom came on. And it said something about Anthony Davis and Luka, and I looked and I'm like, oh, because I thought they had played each other that night. I'm like, oh, they both went for 40 or 50 or something.
Or All-Star Game announcement or something.
Yeah, it's like, that's weird. And then I read it, and then I looked again. I'm like, why do they keep flashing that stupid big red bar? It wasn't a normal breaking news.
It was a big red flash one. Usually they do yellow, but like red blinking.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It was ominous. It was like, what is this? And then so the third time it came up, I'm like, let me read this. And it said, Lakers get Doncic, Mavs get Anthony Davis. And I'm like, wait, what? And it would disappear pretty quickly after I saw that. So I told my buddies, and I'm like, but it just disappeared. I think somebody hacked into the ESPN breaking news room.
No, they want you to focus on Gonzaga St. Mary's. It was a really big game.
So I was like, that can't be right. That can't be right. No way that's right. And then I got on Twitter, and of course even what's his name, the guy that breaks all the news now, Shams. Shams was like, I have not been hacked. This is real. Yeah. Just unbelievable. I'll be honest with you. I feel like the Hawks got more when they traded Luka than the Mavs did.
I was spending all Saturday night convincing myself when he gets back and the way Max Christie has played lately, I'm like, they actually might be all right. And then the Doncic news happens, and I couldn't believe it. And then, I mean, not to go too long on this, but I just think about everything they gave up 6 years ago to get AD. They gave up like Brandon Ingram and Josh Hart and, like several like pretty good functioning pieces and a slew of picks. And they basically they got one title out of it, which that's cool. And they just gave that guy 6 years older and several injuries later. They gave him away for a guy that's 25 years old. And like, we got our guy again. We always get a guy. I mean, dude, I'm 42 years old, Corey. As long as I can remember, like, my parents never really got into football, but like they really enjoyed basketball. It's the global game, man. It's easier to follow than football. We all love football, but seriously, sit down with somebody who's never watched football and try to explain it to them, and you'll realize how crazy of a sport is that we all love. So anyways, like we had Magic, and then we had a little bit of rough patch, but then we got Shaq and Kobe, and then a little bit of rough patch, and Phil came back, and Kobe and Pau, and then we got Bron. I mean, we have to be like the most obnoxious fan base just in terms of like the Walter White. Was that his name in Breaking Bad? You can't keep getting away with this.
Yeah,
incredible. Yeah, I mean, he's one of like the five best players in the world.
And they got Wilt. They got Kareem. Yeah. They got Kareem for cheap with a trade. I mean, the Bucks had the best player of a generation and just traded him to the Lakers. This always happens. Magic somehow. The Lakers got to, I think they were in the finals, and then they got to draft number 1 or number 2 the next year and got Magic Johnson for some stupid trade, like a Norm Nixon trade or something way back when. But the only one that I give them credit for is, because this is a fleecing. This doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense, other than Luka told him, I'm not coming back. Under no, and they say he didn't say that.
Yeah, no, because he's going to get a supermax. He can't get a supermax now.
Yeah, so he wouldn't say that. That's the only thing that would have made sense, because now he's 25. He's probably, when he's right, the second best player in the world, the third best player in the world, and they got him for a guy that is very, very good, Hall of Fame good, but he's also 6 years older and is always hurt. And so, yeah, it's just crazy. The Lakers keep getting stuff like this. But the one credit I do give the Lakers is it wasn't like Kobe was the number 1 pick in the draft.
Yeah, 12 teams I think passed on my guy.
Yeah, and they traded Vlade for him.
Yeah,
right?
and Eldon Campbell. People forget Eldon Campbell.
Oh, Eldon ACC legend.
Yeah,
Eldon Campbell. So that's back when the ACC was something. Now Eldon Campbell, Dale Davis in the same front court. Georgia Tech. Bobby Crimmins below 500. Bobby had Kinney and Dennis Scott and that crew. But so it's like they deserve kudos for Kobe. Everything else is just because they're in L.A., I think. This is crazy. This isn't fair. When do the Hawks get something like this? Why couldn't they have asked? Why couldn't they have traded Luka back to the Hawks for Trae Young? Just run it back. Just see. It's like a sliding door situation. You get to see what would have happened. It just feels like they could have gotten a lot more, at least a few more first-round picks. But, yeah, well, who knows? I'm sure Kyrie will love it, and maybe the Mavs will go win a championship. I will say this. I don't think that makes the Lakers, like, a threat to win it this year. Just because
we'll see what else they got. They've got some of those. They didn't spend a lot of capital. They have a few more picks they can give up to try to get a big. So
but I feel like LeBron and Luka do the same thing. It's pretty redundant.
No, man.
They both handle the ball. They both have the ball in their hand a lot.
Yeah.
So is Luka going to take a back? Like, what they need is LeBron to go somewhere else. Because Luka's better than LeBron right now. It's not arguable. He's also 15 years younger. They do much of the same thing. They're triple doubles machines. So they seem redundant. I bet you could maybe trade LeBron and Bronny and go get yourself something better. But I feel like they're not going to be good defensively. They might struggle this year, but nobody cares about our thoughts on the NBA. I know the Hawks are plummeting quite nicely, and maybe they get Cooper Flagg.
There we go.
That'd be nice. Yep.
All right, not sure of the schedule this week, but probably we'll do Wednesday, Friday.
Hey, don't forget, we interview Lonnie later on today.
Oh,
So I don't know when you want to drop that, but we'll do we're scheduled to get Coach Alameda, who had their Garnet Gold game was Sunday.
Yes.
So we'll talk to her. We did that last year too. Maybe the last 2 years. We've done a preseason interview with her, and that's always fun. She's always really cool to let us talk to her and get to pick her brain. So we'll get an update and how the softball team she thinks the softball team's going to do this year.
yeah. Then they're going down to Puerto Vallarta in Mexico, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, all right.
Play a little softball, and then they're still going to be playing in the Shriners tournament in Clearwater, I think. So, yeah, they'll be in the Puerto Vallarta Challenge, February 6th, 7th, 8th. Good for them. Heck yeah, have fun down there, ladies.
Yeah.
And they'll be in the Shriners the weekend, or rather the week of Valentine's Day weekend, which is a thing now for a guy that has a girlfriend, which is weird. How are we doing this weekend? Yeah. But, yeah, so we'll drop that maybe in the feed, and then we'll come back and we'll do a show probably Wednesday for you folks after we digest these interviews from the players that we have. And then Friday we'll do like the Renegade Express mailbag, as well as some of our observations on the players that we're going to get on Thursday. Those will be Tylen Coleman, Jason Jenkins, Caleb LaValle, and Deontay McCray.
And we'll break down I guess on Tuesday, right, Azon, we'll break the NBA. We'll break down the NBA West All-Stars.
Yes.
And then the next day we'll do the East and like the snubs and who we think deserved, who didn't. Yeah.
All right. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 4 o'clock, warchant.com, around the clock, all the time. Go check it out, folks. Join the family. Join the community. It's fun, for real. Also, check out VitaminEnergy.com. He's Corey Mazon. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.